Thank you so much. And yeah, as we give maybe a minute or two for other people to join, uh, I'll be leading this webinar. I'll be the moderator for the session. And yeah, so just give us maybe a minute or two before we can begin.
Oh, thank you.
In the meantime, you can tell us, you can give us the housekeeping for us moderators, how many minutes you are giving us.
Since the webinar is, yes, of course, scheduled to begin at 10 a.m. and end at 11:30, every panelist will be given a maximum of at least 20 minutes. But I do question that at least try to summarize within 15 minutes so that we can have enough time for a Q&A session so that people can ask questions in case they have any questions they have for you, the panelists. They can have enough time to voice in their concerns or anything. And yeah, for any other A or B. Of course, this webinar, we shall begin with a short prayer. Welcome everyone. And then I'll also try to introduce the panelists so that I'll give each of the panelists their chance to talk more about themselves. Then we shall start with session 1, which will be led by Mandy Edigold. Then session 2 will be Catherine, and lastly Matilda. Hopefully she will be joining in shortly with us. I don't know if she's aware or if she received the link, but I believe that was all shared with her. Then lastly, we shall have
I'm in touch with her. She'll be joining shortly.
Okay, that's wonderful. So, and then lastly, we shall have a Q&A. That's the question and answer or any feedback from those that have joined us for this session. Yeah, and then we shall call it a day. Since it's now 8 minutes past 10, I think almost the 2 minutes are up for any other person that would be wishing to join us today. Probably others are still trying to get through busy schedules, but yeah, maybe an extra minute, then we can begin.
Okay, and just to confirm, Edigold, that I sent you, have you seen the presentation?
I'm just opening it here.
Okay, Carly.
Would you want to present or I give it to our moderator to share? What are you comfortable with?
I really don't mind, either way can work because I was testing whether I can actually be able to share content. It looks like now I can. When I signed in earlier, I wasn't able to, so should be fine. You can share and then he will be able to move the slides, or which is easier for you, Mr. Moderator, so that we don't impose on you as well.
No, that is okay. I gave everybody at least access rights to be able to share and move their presentations, just in case we have any minor glitches on our end.
Okay. Carly, that's fine. I'll be able to share my screen and but also you have the presentation as a backup just in case.
True.
Thank you.
Okay. I believe we have given enough time to those that are going to be attending the panel to join, as the rest will be coming in shortly. I would like to start off this webinar. To introduce myself, my name is Alan Musimenta Adiana. I work with Mind Hive as a volunteer, support them in a number of roles, aside from the IT aspect and content development. I am also working with Mariscops Uganda as an internal audit assistant, and I'm glad to be here today. Thank you for everybody that has made the time to come in as early as possible. I will be your moderator for this session. I would like us to start off. I'm going to start this webinar with a short prayer. I hope nobody has an issue with that. Just give me a moment. I'm sorting out some internet issues. Can everyone still hear me?
Welcome. Thank you for coming in to support women. I was talking to a few gentlemen and they were like, why it is for women? I said, no, you have all women around you. So it's good to see you online. And yeah, Mr. Moderator, are you back? Alan, you are muted in case you're talking.
I'm back. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, though your network doesn't seem to be stable, but we can hear you.
Okay, so I hope everybody can hear me loud and clear.
Yes.
Okay. In case you can't hear me, please you let me know. Or in case you hear any distortions, you can always send it in the chat message. Again, I want to thank everybody for making the time to show up for this webinar. My name is Alan Bandirana. I will be your moderator for this session. Thank you again for joining. We'll be taking you through and presenting some of the people today. Sarah won't be able to join us. She wasn't feeling well, so she had excused herself from this webinar. Mama Edigold, Mrs. Edigold Mande will be the one taking over for Sarah's presentation today. So I would like to begin this webinar with a short prayer when we can get things started. Dear Father, we thank you for this lovely morning. Thank you for being here today and making this session possible. We thank you for our lives, our families, and for our communities. We are grateful that we are able to be here to speak to others about mental health and to empower women within our communities and everybody else and our families to do better. We hope to gain knowledge and understanding from this webinar, and we pray for a successful one. In Jesus' name we pray and believe.
Amen.
So, to those that have joined us again, thank you. Today, we are having this webinar, the Talk Heal and Thrive webinar, which will be focusing on empowering women to cover informed mental health care, and with the focus that is building resilience, community, and advocacy. For those that have just joined in, I hope you can see the screen that is being shared now, so that you can get at least a little bit of inkling about what we're going to be talking about today. If you cannot see the screen, please let me know in the chat room, and I'll try to see how to fix that. So, today it's going to be a panel. It's going to be led by 3 panelists. That will be Mandy Edigold, Kathleen, and Matilda from Ornet. I'll give them an opportunity to introduce themselves later in a few moments. But give me this a short moment to do so. I will be your moderator again this session, with Mandy Edigold taking us through the first session, Catherine taking us through the second session, and Matilda leading the final session. Before we go for a Q&A, where we'll give an opportunity for people to ask some questions and them to get some feedback. With that away, I would like to ask the panelists to introduce themselves. I'll be starting with you, Mandy. Could you please go ahead?
Thank you so much, Alan, and I welcome you all. I'm Amanda Edigold, a co-founder of Free Mind Hive, and a mother to Sarah Tushemerire, that I'm taking over her presentation, as it was. She was not able to present today, but she's with us online. I'm happy to see you all here. We are all women, and we was encouraging also men to join in. My profile is on the screen. I'm an accountant, a businesswoman, a banker, now into the NGO world, and I've gone through many sectors. I will not break it down one by one, but most importantly, I'm happy to see Catherine Mugabo, with the organization she works for. They sponsored us some time back in our capacity building endeavors, and we are here to give back to society. That's why we've been giving unpaid for webinars, because we really want to empower society. And today we are concentrating on women, because it is a Women Month. But next, we shall be having a men's webinar on the 5th of April. Thank you so much for joining in, and many others will be given by a moderator.
Thank you so much, Mandy. Thank you so much, Mandy. Thank you so much for that introduction, Mandy Edigold. I would also like to ask Catherine to come in next to introduce herself.
Okay. All right. Good morning, ladies, and I think I've seen some gentlemen here as well, including our own moderator. My name is Catherine Mugabo. Yes, there is a brief profile of what I've been up to in the last few years and what I'm still up to in the future. When they ask me to introduce myself, I usually think, okay, the labels. But by training, I'm an organizational psychologist. I'm an organization development practitioner. By practice, I'm an ideator on a daily, mother of 5, and really delighted to be here. I've really journeyed with different leaders in the disability sector in different capacities. So truly delighted to be part of this conversation today. I'll keep it. Oh, sorry, guys. You didn't hear a thing I said?
Sorry about that.
We could have loud and
We
clear.
had.
Okay.
Okay, I would like to call Matilda next to introduce herself before we can start. We can go ahead with the session. Is Matilda on the call?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Matilda.
Oh, all right. My name is Matilda. I'm sorry I can't put my video on right now. I'm en route, but I'll be settled in like 5 minutes. I'm called Matilda Natkunda. I'm a lawyer by profession, working with Uganda Women's Network right now. Running a gender-based violence shelter in Kamuli. I'm a human rights activist. I'm a feminist by training and also by adoption. Yes, over time I have learned to accept that feminism is the way to go. yeah, I'm grateful to be on this call and happy to learn with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matilda, for that introduction. With that done, I would like to inform members that Mind Hive has an online community on Telegram. And in case you'd like to start up a conversation, ask any questions about mental health, or have a community where you can go and talk about things that you'd like to talk about without feeling judged, we have a Telegram channel or group, on Telegram that is easily joinable. The link will be shared with you later in the chat room for those that have Telegram and would like to join. Yeah. So with that out of the way, I would like to welcome our first panelist, that is Mandy, that will be taking us through the first session of this webinar.
Okay, thank you so much, Alan. Are you able to see my screen, all of you? Alan, you
Yes,
can reply on
Edigold.
behalf of the rest. Yeah, thank you so
Yes, we
much.
can see.
Yes, so I welcome you all once again. And this is our Women's Month. And we are here to look at how to nurture our mental well-being. And what is well-being, if I can what is well-being? We look at when we talk about well-being, we are looking at a state of being happy, of being healthy and fulfilled in various aspects of life. And it encompasses physical, emotional, mental, and social dimensions. So we shall be concentrating on one of those dimensions, which is mental. Mental. And I want to wish all of you a happy Women's Month. And, girls and women, we face unique challenges. And not until we understand them, we can't manage, because you can't manage what you don't know. So, and we wish to remind ourselves that mental health is as good, as important as physical health. When we get a headache, we want to run to the doctor to see what is happening. But when we get some disturbances, normally we just take it slow, we fear to talk, but we are here to encourage ourselves that our mental health is as good as physical health. Because once our mental health is not as good, then even our physical is affected. So in this session, we shall try. I want to look at the time so that I manage it. We shall try to equip ourselves with trauma-informed self-care strategies. Nurturing our mental health or women's mental health involves the following. We have to create a supportive environment that promotes holistic well-being, such as spiritual, emotional, and psychological and social health. In a number of times, women, we've been accused of tearing each other apart. Sorry, and to stand strong, to stand together in sisterhood, we have to really learn to create a supportive environment for one another. It also recognizes the unique challenges girls and women face in various stages of life. Um, Someone was asking me that why are you only talking about women? But we can't mix the two. And we shall be having a men's webinar at the start of April. So here we are going to look at the challenges girls and women face in various stages of life. And then once we get to understand them, then we shall be able to look at the strategies needed to help us thrive. So some of the challenges that are faced by girls and women, we have societal pressures. Societal pressures from long time ago have gender stereotypes attached to them. From a young age, if you are women, we are girls, we are told how we should look, how to behave, how to sit. There are kinds of other activities that are attached to us as women. And sometimes even these things can be done by men and should be also be told to a boy child. But it is just that there's that stereotype in society. Then we, as women, we are also objectified and sexualized. So people look at us not because of what we have in our brains. They look at us as objects. And in societies, if you know, for a long time ago, a woman was looked at as a source of wealth because she will be married and bring cows at home, or even in terms of giving, of going into, even going into marriage, you are going there to work. So there's quite a lot that is attached to us and not what we are. We are not looked at as a, for the self-worth that we have, but as objects sometimes. And I know this has changed over time, but it is still affecting us, even in our places of work. There's also discrimination that we face in many areas of life, including education. There are some societies that still say, "Oh, let the boy go to school and the girls stay at home to get married." Those are still there. Even in employment, you find that people, because the people that make decisions are mostly men, so you find that some places that can be occupied by women cannot be occupied by women because of those people who are making certain decisions. There's also sexual harassment at office. Yes, men have started being sexually harassed, but it's more on the side of men. So there, I mean, of women, and we have also culture and religious norms that also, so there's quite a lot under society pressures that bring about the challenges faced by women and men. I mean, women and girls. Then we have also gender expectations, where we are taken as, caregiving. In the caregiving roles, we give a lot of care, but we get that care in return. You find that and because it has been attached to us, we find ourselves giving a lot of care and not receiving. So we are always like on the giving end, and this really affects us. Even when you look at home, we have domestic labor. Even both in the elite communities, you find that a woman does quite a lot when a man has a lot of some time on him to go and socialize with others, so that you find that women are really locked up, and this affects our mental health. There's also what we call emotional labor, where women are expected to manage emotional needs of others, and which can be really draining and contribute feeling of burnout. And there are expectations of submissive. Some people take the Bible submission to a different level. You are supposed to be submissive, and when it is taken out of context, you find that women, most cases, and girls are not heard. And there's also what we call the double bind, where women in leadership positions often face this double bind, where you are expected to not to be, you are seen either to be assertive or to be too passive. Whatever you want to do, it is always taken in the extreme. When you want to be heard, they think you are being too assertive. When you keep quiet, they are taken to be too passive, and then we miss out on certain certain opportunities. We are expected to be likable. We are trying to break that. We are not supposed to go to work because we want to be likable. We want to be taken for what we have to give, our self-worth. So there are other conditions also that affect us with mental health conditions. And when we talk about mental health conditions, we look at our increased vulnerability. Women, we are more likely to experience certain mental health conditions such as depression, psychological and social factors. And we are also affected by trauma. If you know that, if, for instance, during wars, I know we are all running for our safety. trying to protect our lives. But in addition, women, we always fear being raped. There's that additional that does not hit men, affect the men. So there are kinds of things that we can also, that affect us mentally. We have lack of access to services. Women in most parts if I look at Uganda, some women get into labor and they can't access services, and you find them dying in child labor, or if by the time they get help, they already suffered different damages. I hope you have heard of fistula, and these really affect us in many ways. Then we have to look also at work balance. When we are looking at balancing of multiple roles, we have to look at work-life balance. And many women really struggle to balance the demands of work, family, and personal life. And, this affects us. This can lead to stress, burnout, and a sense of being overwhelmed. In addition to that, there's what we also refer to as second shift. Even when women work outside the home, they often continue to bear the majority of domestic responsibilities. So you find that we have all come home from work and we are tired. What a man will go into, the bathroom, freshen, and go to listen to news, but a woman is expected to go into the kitchen and see what is there, look at the children. So there is that kind of second shift, and where men help less. Some men, I understand, they've started helping, but that also affects us. We also there is lack of support. Women may face access, we may lack access to affordable childcare, elder care, and other supportive services, making it difficult to balance our multiple roles. We have also conflicting expectations. With men, we are expected to behave in a certain way. We are supposed to have certain roles, and all these really affect us. So the goal here is to create environment and offer strategies that nurture girls and women well-being. We shall look at them as we go along, but I wanted to break down the different challenges and what is within these challenges. We have trauma. And what is trauma? Trauma comes from a Greek word meaning wound. And trauma is not the event, but it is the after effect of traumatic event. And it not only wounds the soul, but has a biological impact on the brain functioning and nervous system. You find when someone has faced trauma, you find them trembling. You find that they have headaches. So these wounds do not only stay within the brain, the soul, but the brain is affected, the physical system is affected. So what do we have to do? We have to first understand trauma before we start managing trauma. So there are different traumatic events, and here we can look at examples of trauma. We have a common one, which is gender-based violence, and this, by the way, is it used to be on the side of women turning against men, but as I said, we have something for men, and we shall go into the details here. There's childhood abuse. The children are beaten, children are denied food, especially those who find themselves in homes where they don't have the two parents there. But we have also seen where the two parents are in the home and children are abused in different ways. Childhood neglect, there's a lot going on in childhood neglect. Someone just comes up and says, this is not my child, and then leaves that family and creates another family and leaves that family. So you find that the children are growing in situations that are not stable, and this really impacts, it creates childhood trauma. And by the way, a child can be able to grow without seeing that they have actually that trauma, and then it comes up maybe when they're even in the adulthood. So we need to take care and know that as the children grow up, we need to take care of their mental health. There's also human trafficking, and you find that mostly those who are trafficked are women and girls. Harmful cultural practices, that there's what we call the female circumcision. Really, that is I tried to understand why it was being done. I'm not sure whether I got the right answer, and if there is anyone subscribing to that culture, I'm sorry. I apologize in advance, but I was told that sometimes it was used to manage the sexual desires of the women, so that they don't have to go outside and have other men. But this actually harms them. And also even the men who are being circumcised, there are sometimes when they end up losing their manhood because of the crude methods that are being used, and this creates trauma. War-related trauma, I've talked about it. We have maternal health challenges. If you are in labor for a long time and you're not helped, if the people get, some women get post I've forgotten the name, but they get the depression after giving birth. There's quite a lot. Workplace discrimination causes trauma. There's loss and grief. Sometimes we don't know how to handle it at the point in the real time, and then we are hit later. Economic hardship. Yeah, if I can give an example of loss, sometimes when women lose their husbands, they are expected not to remarry. They are looked at differently. You go out and then they think you are going to look for men. There's all that is there. It even, it complicates the loss and the grieving you're going through. And yet men, they can even be encouraged to marry, not even before a year elapses. There's economic hardship and also displacement due to natural disasters. So once we recognize these challenges, we shall be able to provide support and foster healing and advocating for mental health. Trauma can deeply affect women's mental health in different ways. I've talked about emotional responses. We have trust issues. We have low self-worth, and we also have chronic stress. All these really can affect us deeply, and we need to be mindful. Once we find ourselves in this situation, then we need to seek help early enough. The others that affect us are relation struggles, where the trust issues and fear of vulnerability may make it hard to maintain healthy relationships. Sometimes when it comes to coping mechanisms, some women have turned to substance abuse and other risky behaviors to numb the emotional pain. It's not like intentional, it is a way of coping. Reproductive health, trauma can affect reproductive health, leading to complications or trauma-related stress during pregnancy. And we also have identity disruption. Trauma may cause a woman to feel disconnected from her sense of self or future goals. But once we understand the impact, it is crucial to help us to provide effective support and help women to heal and regain resilience. The key strategies we are looking at is trauma-informed. Once we are trauma-informed, then we shall have proper approaches to recognize, understand, and respond to the effects of trauma. But once we don't understand trauma, we shall start looking at healing at healing symptoms without looking at the grassroots. So we need to really understand trauma, and once we understand, we shall stop asking what's wrong with you, but we shall say what happened. And once we understand what happened, then we shall be able to support. So once you get to know what happened, we are actually digging into the roots of understanding what happened, and we are able to help accordingly. So this strategy prioritizes mental health well-being, fostering resilience, and also avoid re-traumatization. Once you understand what happened to a person, you don't have to again repeat it, because that puts them in the state where they were originally. So once we understand and you are dealing with that person, we shall be able to avoid re-traumatization once we are handling them. Then we need to look at the key trauma-informed strategies. What are they? We have look at safety first. Create physically and emotionally safe space before you talk to a person. That will make the person be able to really trust, be confident, and then they will open up. Trust and transparency. Build a relationship based on honesty and respect. And it should be a two-way. You don't impose on. I like it when Catherine asked the the moderator that what would you have? We are not imposing. So that builds the relationship. Empowerment and choice. We encourage autonomy and self-advocacy. Then we also have peer and community support. Here we foster connection and share healing experiences. And like I talked, what we were going through last evening, it was really more of healing experiences and where we're giving safe space for people to talk. Cultural sensitivity, we have to recognize and respect diverse backgrounds and experiences before we do anything. That's why I apologize before I talked at with female circumcision, in case someone is here to understand that I'm giving it as an example, not that I understand fully what happens there. Strengths-based approach, we need to focus on resilience and personal strength rather than deficits. So this strategy is essential in mental health care, education, workplace, and community support systems, homes, ensuring that women and girls receive compassionate and effective care. We are looking at practical self-care tools to manage trigger and emotional responses. So we need to manage the triggers and emotional responses to be able to and be intentional self-care practices that promote healing, resilience, and emotional balance. And here we have the tools, practical the tools. We have grounding techniques. I can see time is running and we run to manage time. So, Mr. Moderator, I'm requesting that I take extra about 8 minutes. So I end my presentation at exactly maybe 10:48, somewhere there. So we have grounding techniques and emotional regulation, creating safe space. So all these really, if one of us is here, I might not go into the details, but I can just give you just the highlight where you identify like 5 things and you see 4 things you touch, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell. Emotional regulation, we do a lot of journaling. It helps us to power out. Then affirmation, use positive self-talk. People normally give us negative talk, but have affirmations. You can even write them on your door before you go out of the room, before you go anywhere. You look at them and say, I'm beautiful, I'm smart, I'll conquer the world, I'll succeed, I'll do this. So you give yourself affirmations. Then you can listen to music if it calms you down. We also have to create safe space, create comfort corners, and we have to learn to create boundaries, limit exposure to environments of people that trigger distress, and mindful escape. We also have movement and physical care to release the build-up tension. Try to do exercises as much as you can. Progressive muscle relaxation, that one tense and release different muscles. We have safe, compassionate touch. Hug yourself if you can. And, place your hand on your heart or gently rub your arms for comfort and talk to yourself and give yourself good words. Then we have social and spiritual support. This one helps us stay connected and uplifted. Our support networks, please understand, don't simply open up to people, but first understand the people. So reach out to those you trust. We can also have faith-based practitioners helping us engage in prayer, and we can also seek professional help. At any one point, please seek help, whether it is professional or faith-based or in trusted friends, but please seek help. Do not give up on yourself. And we have to integrate self-care tools into the daily life, and women can help women manage triggers. Many women struggle with guilt and society expectations that prevent them from prioritizing their mental health and emotional well-being. We have to overcome these barriers. We have to change, to have a mindset change, a shift, and be intentional in self-care practices. We have to reframe self-care as a necessity, not a luxury, by God's grace. Self-care is a necessity. Then we have to challenge culture and society expectations, the societal expectations that keep us grounded into what is good for our mental health. We have to set boundaries without guilt and learn to say no in form of self-respect. Not to say yes to please others, but we have to have self-respect. Make self-care a daily habit. How do we do it? Schedule self-care time in your calendar and treat it as a non-negotiable. That is your time, it's your time. And choose activities that genuinely restore you, reading, prayer, movement, nature. You can even have friends and create maybe book club. Try to see what can be good for you and make it a non-negotiable. If you say 10 a.m., I'll look at myself, let it be. Make it part of your schedule. Acknowledge that prioritizing yourself helps you show up better in every role. Because if you don't, you can't give what you don't have. If you don't love yourself, you won't love others. If you don't care for yourself, you won't care for others. So that's why we are saying let the care start with you through self-care habits. Let us look at how we can have healthy relationships with men. Set clear boundaries, establish and communicate your emotional, mental, and physical boundaries to ensure mutual respect and balanced relationship. Sometimes we want people to read us and say, can't he see I'm tired? No, sometimes they don't see. Mention it, you're tired. Can't he help me here? No, ask. So let us not assume that other people will look at us and be able to know what we are feeling. Let us learn to speak up and set clear boundaries. Strengthen your spiritual foundation. Spend time in prayer, meditation, whatever faith you have. That is a faith in God. Spend time in prayer and seek guidance, peace, and wisdom in your relationship. Trust God to lead you in building connections, resilience, and culture of self-care. Acknowledge that prioritizing yourself helps you show up better in every role you play. Yeah. Thank you so much. I know we shall have time for questions. Just know that we matter as women. Know we are not alone, and we are loved. I will leave please write down the questions you have, and then we shall have a question and answer and be able to come to you. But I want to thank you for listening in. I had to rush through because I wanted to have all this information in this short time, but it's quite a lot. Every word that we speak up has even many more to discuss under it, but this is just like a tip. Tips for us to know how to do self-care, how to nurture our mental health. Thank you so much for listening in. Over to you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Edigold. That was quite very insightful and for this informative session. Since we have a time cap, I would like to invite the next panelist, that is Catherine Mugabo, to present. And I hope she's ready so that we can move on with the day and we can have enough time for the Q&A.
Yes. Yes, I'm ready. I'm trying to turn on my video as well as I share my screen. If you can stop sharing, okay. Can everyone see my screen? Hello, can you see my screen?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I can see it.
Okay, thank you. Just timing myself, 15 minutes. All right. So thank you so much, Edigold, for the strong foundation you've laid. You've really made my work very easy. And as we come to this segment of this conversation, I wanted to recap that this segment too is called empowerment and resilience. And I wanted to really clarify that I'm going to be focusing. Empowerment has a connotation or it presupposes that there's no power and you're coming to empower. But I really believe in working with existing energy, enhancing the power that is already within and the power too that resides within each one of us to be able to strengthen our resilience. So that is the posture that this very brief presentation is going to be taking on. I'm trying to see that it's in slide mode. Okay. Because Mama Mary Edigold has done a fantastic job in laying a very firm foundation around the things that make trauma stick out, stay. I wanted to build on the stool that she has built. She's talked about the effects of trauma. She's talked about the different causes of even re-traumatization, even as we work very deliberately to be well as women, regardless of our past. When I was preparing for this session, what I thought about was how can I contribute to building from within? And to build from within, if you've listened to Edigold, that there are things that are in different aspects of our lives. There's trauma, there is societal expectations, there are invisibilized assets that when you objectize the other things that are great about her. And so this session of mine is going to dwell on how do we deal with that from the very foundation. And I'm glad that you talked about grounding. And here I titled my first slide, Are You Grounded? Are you grounded? Why? Because you are responsible for you. The world, I have a friend of mine who keeps telling me that the world does not owe me. And so if the world does not owe me, I have a responsibility, at least to myself, to say, what can I do when the world does not owe me? What can I do to be able to thrive in this world? Because it is my first responsibility to myself. So I'm going to ask each one of us as individuals to answer each of these questions, and I'm going to give you, I have 15 minutes, I'm going to give you 5 minutes of this presentation. You're going to ask yourself on a piece of paper, you write, if you have one, who am I really? Who are you? For me as Catherine, who am I? So you're going to answer that question for yourself. Who am I really? The second question that I'm requesting us to work with is the question around who loves me? Not who do you love, but you. As I've seen Robina Alambuya, I can use you as my example because I know you'll not be offended, or even Edigold. Who loves me? Who loves Robina? Who loves Alan? Who loves Merab? Not who you love. And as you interrogate and answer that question for yourself, think about why do they love me? How do they love me? So at least, and for each of these, hopefully you have, you will tell us what your answers will be like if you choose to share anyway. Then the third question you're going to work with is who do I trust? Not who trusts you, but for you, who do you trust? The fourth question is, what am I good at? Answer for yourself, because unless you can answer these questions for you, chances are that whatever the world will throw at you, you'll go with that because you're not grounded in this. The last question is, why am I here? So put your name there on that piece of paper. I hope everyone has. So starting now, I'm going to be checking in on you again. I said I've donated, not donated. We are sharing this session together. So in 10 minutes, in an additional 5 minutes, I'm going to be asking if we are done. Is the assignment clear? It's individual assignment. And when we return, we just ask a few volunteers who are willing to share and only to share the parts that they're willing to share in this exercise. Is that clear and understood?
Yes.
Okay. I'll keep quiet and allow you to work with that. And in case you finish slightly earlier before, you can also let us know and we start and save some time. We have 2 more minutes. Okay, I think that our 5 minutes are done. And to move the conversation forward, I'm requesting I dropped off at some point. My presentation, that's why it's not showing, but I would love, before I put back the slide, I'm requesting if there are any volunteers by putting up hands, just to answer, how did you experience this exercise? Very briefly, and I think we'll only have perhaps 4 people coming in the interest of time. So how did you experience the exercise of answering these questions, and how do you feel? So because these are very private, very, very private questions. So I will understand if people are not willing to share. But if we have any volunteers, I would be happy to hear how you experienced the process of answering these questions and how you feel. Do you have any volunteers by showing off of hands? And Alan, if you see any hands that I can't see, you can also help me. If there are no hands, just to put context that the first question of who am I is a question that addresses the issue of identity, because one of the trauma effects, okay, Edigold, I see you're putting up your hand. Just finish my sentence that one of the trauma effects you surfaced in your presentation was that trauma disrupts identity. And the first question deals with that identity question. Edigold, do you want to come in?
Yes, thank you so much. Just to quickly comment that sometimes I was going to say that trauma disrupts identity, and when you start asking who am I, you try to even think, and sometimes you don't get it. But I said, who am I? In short, I'm God beloved. I'm a God beloved, spiritual being, and a mother and a friend. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And why am I mean, the other one was who loves me. I put God first because I've come from far, and I'm here by grace of God. So He's the one who goes there. And then I know my children love me. I know my siblings love me. I know my grandchildren love me. I know my nephews. I'm one of those people who is lucky. I have quite a lot of love around me, and I feel it. So do I trust? Again, I run to God. And then I have to go slowly on the next person I trust. But there are a few things. For instance, I have a trusted sister. I always go to her with a few things. Then I know what to share with who in my society, in my environment. So it's not everyone that is there for everything that I think about.
Okay. Thank you, Edigold. I don't see any other hand, so I will quickly try and also address the who loves me question. One of the things, and the reason I was asking, how did you experience the exercise? I would have wanted somebody else other than Edigold to answer before I can move forward. Anyone else who is willing to share?
Okay, I'm not able to raise my hand for some reason, but can I share?
Yes, please.
So my name is Shume. I'm Edigold's daughter in Rwanda. So I think for me, the experience I've had is more of you sort of have to distance yourself from a lot of as a woman. I tend to describe myself first as a mother, as a wife, and a daughter. I'm like, but who really am I? Got me thinking. I'm like, I need to self-discover. Who am I? What makes me tick? Like, I don't think I had the answer. Yeah. So I think it's more of it's given me an opportunity to dig deep, sort of really figure myself out outside of all the other things that I like to identify myself with. But who really am I? I don't know if I'm being honest. I felt like I need to do more digging. So I like the questions because they got me thinking outside of the usual. So yeah, that is my experience. I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Shime. And I think, okay, I'm on. I thought I had dropped off. Thank you very much. So these questions are, I said I'm going to only contribute to the journey towards building resilience. Why? These are hard questions. There are people, when we are dealing with, there's a process we run, when we ask these questions, people, you almost run the risk of doing what Edigold was warning us against. Don't take back people to the trigger. Don't take them back to where they came from. And yet, we know that in medicine, if someone has a really stinking wound and you don't open it up, you don't clean it up, you don't want to look at it, chances are they might lose their leg over time if you don't deal with the wound and the septicness, sepsis that is growing in there. So these questions bring us to that. For me, every time I will tell you that this is a daily work. There are times I've answered these questions and I'm not sure who loves me, not even my children. I'm a mother of 5. But if you are being honest, sometimes you're asking, are they loving me? Because it is their obligation. So if we are being honest, like Shime has talked about, sometimes these are very difficult questions to answer. But the reason I brought them here is to really invite us to a place of, are we willing and are we ready to deal with the things that life throws in our direction when it does? And the reason why we do that is that when you don't deal with these questions to build your foundation, you will never be truly grounded. You will build a facade, an image that people see on social media, that all these things that everybody praises you for, but truly inside your own shaking ground. And my invitation today, I hoped my agenda and goal was, can I put signposts in your way on your journey in building agency, identity, self-worth, that we cannot build a self-worth idea of us when we don't even know who we are, when we don't know what we are good at. When people criticize you, it's okay. You can say, fine, I'm not a musician. Maybe I'm not a politician, but I'm good at doing this. So that then people don't make you feel terrible about the things that you're not wired to do. Someone talks about how our education system likes asking crocodiles to fly. And then when the crocodile fails to fly, you label it a failure. But in the actual sense, what you're doing is you're asking the wrong animal. That if you know who you are, when we answer these questions, then we'll be able to deal with the whole issue of the things sometimes that destabilize us, the things that dislodge us from our safety. Grounding.
Sorry, Catherine. Mr. Moderator, can you check on those who are not muted and request them to mute? They are disrupting Catherine's presentation.
I have done so. I've muted them. I think they had forgotten to mute. I've done it. Sorry for that, Catherine.
You can go ahead, Catherine.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. So, Robina can be muted. Thank you. So when you answer the identity question, and it's okay not to have answers to these questions, sometimes it will make you have a sleepless night because you're thinking, oh my goodness, I thought I was loved. Why am I here? One of the reasons we know life can be meaningless is if you don't have a purpose. That therefore the things that happen to you all around you then decide and they give you the impression maybe I'm not worth being here. But once you've dealt with these questions, work with them, and it takes time. Sometimes you will need support of another person, a trusted person. But really the starting point and foundation or grounding must be that you must be courageous to face these questions alone and answer them. Very honestly, I know that she may confess that if I'm being honest, perhaps I don't even know that if they strip you of your titles, ED, founder, MP, husband, wife, mother, whatever title you wear, if they took all that away, would you still walk with your head high? Or would you say life is meaningless? I'm signing out. So once we deal with that, it helps us to build our resilience. It grounds us. So I wanted to use this illustration that There's a commissioner in the Ministry of Gender called Mondo, and he really reads a lot. I think he loves quoting the proverbs and sayings from different places. And I was recently at a meeting where he said, and we're in a parenting meeting, and he said that when a farmer does not tend their garden, they will harvest weeds. Remember, we started from a point of you're responsible for your own well-being, and if you don't take it seriously, no one will. There are things people cannot do for you. There are battles people will not fight for you, because especially if the battle is in your mind, nobody will fight that battle for you. They can support you, but they cannot fight for you. So let us take time. And I'm not going to dwell a lot on what to do, which is what my next slide was on, because again, Edigold did a fantastic job in dissecting and giving the tools that can support us to be able to deal and stay well as people, and to deal with the different trauma. And here I had put, unstoppable growth strategy. And the reason why I think it's unstoppable is that it has to be a balance. So here, the signpost given here is the body, mind, and soul, that you have to be able to balance your boat and be able to harvest, if it's a wind source, the way they collect, that you have to be able to move in all directions. So you need to have a holistic outlook to this. And because remember, we said we are starting with you. Here, what I had put here, and I'm trying to minimize something that is obstructing my view, is that we need to embrace who we are. It's okay not to know fully who you are right now. But when you work with those questions, when you're sleeping and it's not a one day off, it's okay if the list is not full of many names as you wish. In fact, Edigold, I had actually wished that one of the people on the list of who loves you would be you, because sometimes we don't even love ourselves. So I hope that if there is nobody else on that list of who loves me, at least you will be on that list. I hope so, that we love each other enough, we love ourselves enough to be able to at least do something about it. I'm not going to go into this. I had just done a very quick, sort of like, if it was a balanced diet of what you need to do, that you need to take care of your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, intellect, environment, social, and financial. And I think Edigold has done a fantastic job in that. Maybe just to emphasize on the last point, you people, poverty many times comes with mental health issues. That's why you see people who have been so well in ministries, in big jobs, when they retire, before you know it, they are unwell. Because the thing begins in the mind, and you're thinking, I don't even have money to go to the hospital. We are in a season, a very tough season, where so many people have lost their jobs. So we anticipate that mental health issues are going to be on the increase, and they are already on the increase. But once you've dealt with all these other things and you know what grounds you, you're able to navigate these other spaces. But to also alert us that while we have opportunities, we must put aside money, not just for a rainy day, but money to take us in times where we don't have constant cash. Because when people are poor, so that's why I wanted to end this. And I really want to invite you to work with those questions. I know I have rushed through this. This is a conversation when we are working with this tool that could even take an entire day's conversation. I've compressed it into more than actually the time I was given, but just to invite you, sit with those questions, work with them, balance your boat. It is your responsibility. Don't be careless, because life is not just here. You're not here to exist. You're here to live, to leave a mark and to make your contribution. And I pray that you love you are on that list, and that you do everything possible to take care of that beloved you. Whatever you have to do, I pray that you'll find the help and the support that you need to live a balanced life. Remember, when a farmer does not tend their garden, they will harvest weed. And we do not want to harvest weed in our lives. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you so much, Catherine. That was very engaging and really inspiring you presented those questions. And I myself asked myself that question. Who am I really? Why am I here? So with Catherine ending us on really that engaging session, I would like to invite Matilda, who will be coming next as for session 3. I hope Matilda is ready. Again, I want to thank everyone who has made it to this webinar. Thank you for taking part. Thank you for showing up. It shows not just courage, it shows that you have initiative just for yourself, but for your community and your family. Passing on to Matilda. Matilda, are you on call?
She was on call. Let me check. Let me check quickly on the list, but she was on call. I know she had issues with her presentation, but I hope she has overcome that. Matilda Nakunda,
She's
actually,
on.
she's on and she has unmuted.
As Matilda prepares herself, I'd like to again inform the members that we have an online community on Telegram, and the link has been shared in the chat. If you have any more questions or anything you'd like to talk about, reach out to Mind Hive or be part of a community where people can share about their experiences and get help. We have a group on Telegram. It is readily available. You can join if you like. We have shared the link in the chat room. And for those that have just joined in, we are going into session 3, and it will be Matilda who will be taking us over for the next session. And the previous sessions we had Miss Edigold, and the concluded one was read by Miss Kathleen. Again, thank you again for being with us today.
Hello.
Oh, Matilda, welcome.
Thank you. Sorry, I got some. I'd like to thank all the previous panelists, Mandy, Catherine. It was great listening from all of you. Talking about practical advocacy skills. I'm sorry, I don't have a slide. I think I'll share that with Mandy afterwards. I know it will sort of defeat the purpose, but it's going to be mainly just sharing offhand tips on practical advocacy. First of all, I saw that there's something on gender equality for me to share as well. Let me share that before we go into the practical advocacy skills. Gender equality really is about us recognizing that what men can do, women can do. What men can be, women can be. Now, gender ideally is beyond our definition of sex. It's about more than just being male and female, but what society has attached to the fact that one is male or female. For instance, what you would call gender roles. Men are known to be providers. Men are known to be the ones that have to pay the bride price, things like that. And then women are known to be the carers, the caregivers at home. They're the ones who nurture and give birth to the children, things like that. So with gender equality, we want to recognize that women and men are free to determine what they want to be and what they can do. And we create a conducive environment for them to determine themselves. So they have rights according to the Constitution of Uganda, according to international laws, and we ascribe to them equal rights. And that's what gender equality is about. Now, when it comes to the mental health discussion, we have to realize that mental health affects men and women. I'm seeing some questions popping up. I'll look at those later. Mental health affects men and women alike, and you cannot disaggregate that. No, mental health affects women like more than it affects men. Of late, we realized that, was it last year, towards the end of last year, we saw a lot of suicidal suicides from men, and then we can tell that men are also suffering silently. But today's topic is mainly about women, since it's Women's Month. Let's go to the practical advocacy skills. First and foremost, you need to realize that advocacy for mental health is something that you and I can do. You don't have to be an expert mental health practitioner to be an advocate for mental health issues in your society or in the place where you're working. Anywhere you are, you can become a practical advocate for mental health. The first thing that you need to realize is that mental health issues can happen to anybody. Anybody can become a mental health patient. Why? Because everybody is living in a society where they're facing pressures every single day. Just living, just existing. You've had Catherine talk about poverty. We now have cuts from jobs. People have been laid off, sent termination notices and things like that. You're going to have lots of people wondering where their next meal is coming from. So we need to realize that people are suffering all around us. How do you become a mental health advocate? Talk to people. Be open to talk to people. Yes, open up. For instance, if you have been a mental health patient before, you can share your story. If you feel open enough to share your story with a friend, share your story on a platform that has been provided concerning mental health advocacy. Share your story. Someone out there is going to relate with your story. I was particularly inspired by this organization, Mind Hive, because somebody told me the story behind its creation. And I was like, wow, if somebody can overcome violence to that extent and trauma to that extent, then anybody else can. So when you share your story, you show others that it can be conquered. The problem that is at hand, that is being faced, can be conquered. So sharing your story is one of the ways you can be a practical mental health advocate. Another thing you can do is to just stop complaining about the situation, but accept it and know living in to traverse that problem. What do I mean? For instance, if you have a community of survivors of gender-based violence that you have access to, like in my line of work, I deal mainly in gender-based violence. We always do psychosocial support for survivors of gender-based violence. So we can access communities of gender-based violence survivors. Now, instead of grumbling and complaining, men in this community are not providers, men are wife beaters, things like that. No. How do we go about it? We support the women that are dealing with gender-based violence and are suffering from trauma in these circumstances by empowering them economically. We find ways of training them skills, income-generating skills, and we teach them financial literacy. So how do you support your community to come out of the mental health issues that in that community? Complaining does not cut it. Grumbling does not cut it. You become an advocate by actively doing something about the problem that you see at hand. Another way you can become an advocate, a practical advocate for mental health issues, is engaging in political talk. Yes, it's something that not many people appreciate considering the political terrain that we are in, but we cannot bury our heads in the sand just because it's not nice out there. We have to talk about it. So any fora you have, in the villages, we have the local council meetings. I don't know in the urban areas what forums we have for sharing, for advocating for mental health, but webinars like these are good to go. Twitter spaces are good to go. Sorry about the sound. Twitter spaces where they have dialogues on mental health and many other spaces. Go ahead and engage. Let people know what's going on around you. Do you have access to psychologists? Catherine, it's good to have you on board. I was really, really impressed with your presentation. The psychologists start map out psychologists in the area so that you can share contacts, you can visit them, you can refer friends to them and get them support. That is also being an advocate. You refer the mental health patients or you seek help for them from the experts. Another way of being a practical advocate is by teaching, sensitizing the community around you. Children are, I think, most prone to trauma. Organizational psychologists, oh yes, Catherine, sorry about that. Yeah, children are most prone to trauma because of different circumstances while being brought up. You can tell that with the different ways of punishment, a child can suffer trauma. And we know now that corporal punishment has been abolished in Uganda, but it's still there. It's still there. So if you can engage your community on how to address violence against children to avoid trauma in children, it would be really, really helpful. It would become real advocacy. You sensitize the communities. Any chance you get, sensitize your community, teach them that this can end up with trauma. If you continue with something like this, you can end up traumatizing people in this home, people in this community, people in this workplace. We know of toxicity in workplaces. If we do not get up and deal with toxicity in workplaces, you're going to have traumatized employees, traumatized workmates, colleagues. I don't know if this is making sense to anyone, but I feel like every space we are in, there is a chance for you to be an advocate for mental health. And you just have to recognize that if there is violence happening in this space, somebody somewhere is going to come out hurt, and it is going to last longer than necessary because they can't speak out, they can't speak up. So being an advocate, you're going to encourage people to recognize trauma, to recognize violence, triggers of trauma, and to recognize that they can speak out and they can release these violent experiences and not keep them inside to sustain the trauma that could possibly come out of them. I really, really would want to encourage us to see how we can create storytelling spaces as part of being advocates. How do we create storytelling spaces? Because you see, I once got an opportunity of sitting in a space where they were telling stories about gender-based violence. This might be a little bit what they call controversial, but I still need to share it anyhow. It was a fireplace and we had different different orientations in sexuality that were sharing their stories of gender-based violence. I'd never seen such vulnerability in one space. It was so captivating, so emotional, so moving, and you could tell that these people were healing in the process of telling. So create storytelling spaces. Yeah, I don't know how much time I have left.
Mr. Moderator, I think you can answer Matilda.
Yes, she still has, we can give an extra 5 minutes because it's already 11:32. But in case she feels there's still much she needs to share, she can continue to go ahead. Then we can have our Q&A session, probably for 10 minutes before we can close off. Matilda, is there anything else? It felt like you still had much.
It looks we have lost her.
Yes, it seems the network on her side might have gone off, I think. You shall have her later. So that was Matilda, who was giving us an informative session regarding gender equality and more that she had to say about managing our mental health and how we can help others in the community by speaking up. So with that brings to the conclusion of session 3. For those that have just joined, we posted some updates on what had transpired. The first session was led by Miss Edigold. Second session was Miss Catherine, and the one that has just concluded, that was Matilda. In case you need their information, you can always reach out to them privately. But yeah, thank you for the panelists for taking the time to present and to take us through this engaging webinar today. It was very informative. I hope we shall have Miss Matilda coming in again later. But yes, we now switch on to the Q&A session. Some people had asked questions in the chats, and some of them had been responded to. But if you have any questions right now, you can unmute your mic and ask, or you can ask the question in the chat, addressing it to the person that you would like to answer it. So I'm giving you this moment to do so. Anyone with questions, please you can post them in the chat, or you can ask them verbally here right now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, moderator. This is Dr. Iga Daniel Mwesigwa. I hope I'm being heard. Hello?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Yes, some of the questions I have been posting, but one of the issues when I think goes to maybe Catherine. I would just want to thank her so much for the presentation. But there are people or maybe ladies who are critically negative over everything, and they are always critical in a negative way, and they never see any positivity. How does one deal with such a person, and how can such a person be helped? That's one. Then another one is it goes to, I think, to the legal officer who talks about gender equality. I would like to know what we have for equality and equity. These are two different words. And what do they mean? Gender equality or gender equity? We need to be very clear when we are using these two words. So we would like to know what is equality and what is equity. And I think those are on my questions where I would need clarification. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dan. Hopefully one of the panelists can take on the questions that have been asked. Meanwhile, anyone else that has a question or any questions, please, you can post them in the chat or you can unmute yourself and then you present your question. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Dr. Iga, for the question. Catherine speaking. I've switched off my video for purposes of leveraging the internet better. So on your question of how do you deal with a perpetually negative person, I know that that's an interesting question because one thing I've learned is that people in life come across and deal with situations based on one, where they are at in life, based on their knowledge, based on their experiences, based on when I say where they are at, and that can be in spiritually, socially, mentally, financially. And so there are people who are in a certain headspace or emotional space, and that's all they can give. I think somebody earlier on said you can't give what you don't have. So and I'll answer that question with an example someone shared in a space I was at yesterday. They talked about how people are so in awe and surprised and disgusted about northern Uganda, in particular, men and women who are drinking, who are seemingly coming across as lazy, because they're saying, wait a minute, you guys, during the war, we would understand if you did certain things. Now that there is no more war, we don't understand why certain people are still coming across as lazy. The elders are not playing their role. The women are even negligent. The men are just drinking and still expecting all these things. And this woman said, look here, just because there are no guns singing in the background doesn't mean that the trauma, the effects, the emotional damage that went into those people's lives, the experiences were suddenly, the experiences vanished with the vanishing of the actual gun sound. So when you think about it, the software behind their behavior is that there are things that have not been processed. And whatever emotion has not been processed is always transferred. So a wounded person will likely wound other people. So my invitation to you, if you're in the life of that person, is perhaps to be curious and extend empathy. Is it easy? No. But I think if we love, we care enough, it's important that we also then first work with us and say, how do I support this person? Because definitely from their perspective, they are coming at it from where they are at. There are things we don't see about them. It's experiences. It's like when you're dealing with someone who has a trauma that is not necessarily written on their face, but everything, even a word, it can be a word that is very innocent for you. It means something different. You say it and someone says, you see, men are like that. But the person who hurt her, it happened long time ago. But you just happen to come, maybe you're wearing the same shirt or the color that the person was wearing, and they are triggered. So to also remember and understand and extend grace, knowing that people come and deal with situations based on where they are at, their emotions, their experiences, their competencies, with all that, it comes as a package. So I would request and invite us to grace, not easy. And if you can't deal with it, sometimes it's important, the healthy boundaries that Edigold was talking about. Maybe it's to step away and see who else can support this person. If I'm not in the space to support them, where else or who else can support them? If at all that is still in your interest to support them. That's what I can say. And I'm not saying I have all the answers, and I would welcome, there are many practitioners here. I think it would also be nice to hear what others think about that question. Asante sana for the question and for the opportunity to share.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for giving us the feedback on that. Mr. Dan had an interesting question for Matilda regarding the differences or us understanding deeply what gender equality and equity is actually. separating both and getting to understand what it actually means, so that people are not dive into something else. Yes, Maureen. Maureen has a question. Please go ahead, Maureen.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, it's not a question. It's an add to what has been discussed, especially the doctor who finds a personality, who is interacting with a personality that is so negative. And of course, I would imagine the strain that one goes through if they have to deal with a character like that, because it then becomes an energy vampire. Characters who are negative are called energy vampires. They kind of they steal your energy in a way that you may not understand, especially if you find yourself in a space where you have to physically be with them all the time. Maybe just to add that people are what they are because of what they've gone through. Everybody is born empty, but we go through life. Life happens. People go through a lot, and we meet them in their adulthood, and a lot has happened. Now, maybe one thing I also need to mention is that we need to be very keen with such people, because they need to be supported and helped. And I think that the best way to do it is to be in a platform like this, where people can tell you that it's very important to equip yourself with skills and tools you need to manage a person who is equally lost in a space that nobody wants to be, but nobody wants to hurt, because it's hurt people who hurt. So these people are already hurt. These people are already traumatized. And therefore, it's important that you ask for grace to be able to support them at the point where they are at, and then be able to walk with them from that point to where you want them to go, not to judge them. Now, most of us, of course, without knowing, judge them or misinterpret them to think that they intentionally want to hurt us. No, it is not true. And maybe the other thing that I wanted to share is that people need to know that that everybody is doing their best with the best that they know, with the best that there is, to put out the best that they can. If I see people, for example, minimizing or minimizing toilet cleaners, somebody who comes out to clean a toilet, if they were not in that space, you'd never be comfortable in that office or in a space where there's a dirty toilet. And that person is also trying their best with the best that there is, with the best that they know, to give the world the best thing. If you meet a cobbler, so you meet a border man, they're doing the best with the best that they know. So when we understand that and then we must count ourselves lucky that we are able to know what we know. And when more is given to you, more is expected from you. And therefore, I want to encourage whoever is dealing with a character that is like that to, first of all, understand that the person is already struggling. The person has a pain body, has accumulated pain from when they were young to what you're seeing today. And that accumulation is actually contributing to the character that you're seeing today. And it's our duty, it's our responsibility to support those people without judging them. I would really have talked a lot more about how to support such people, how to know that, by the way, you're so lucky that for you can differentiate between a pain body and what is not, and to know that maybe they are not well, and see how do you therefore support them so that we make life a better place for them, because they are struggling. So let's not add that pain to them, because they are already in a struggle, and you can't know who you are. And unfortunately, even as you mentioned that somebody is not well, other people are also looking at you, not that same person, but the other people who are with you, who you interact with, also notice that there's something weird about you. So it's just that we are all not perfect as human beings, and it's our duty, our obligation to keep tool and retool ourselves to be able to support one another to make the world a place to enjoy for all of us, to survive and enjoy. I want to thank you for now. I have been enjoying the discussion. I enjoy knowledge because I know knowledge distinguishes you, knowledge empowers you, knowledge helps you to live in a world that is so it's littered with a lot of things. So once you're equipped and tooled with you have that skill set, you can better manage your life and the people around you. I want to thank you for now. I'm sorry I've taken some bit of time, but thank you very much. I have enjoyed every bit of it, and I can only say that I will always be around here to learn and share. I thank you. Bye for now.
Thank you so much, Maureen, for that. That was really quite insightful. Very informative, sorry. Mandy, you had your hand raised up. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. I just wanted to add something to what Catherine shared. In real life, we know we have come across the people we call narcissists. That is something we used not to know, but now in families, we keep on talking about narcissists. What we need to do is, again, to point out to them that they need help. And sometimes we have to extend grace, but of course, not at our own peril. What causes narcissism? We look at life circumstances and stressors. Mostly these people will have gone through this same thing, which again, when I was presenting, I said sometimes what we go through when we are children resurfaces again when we are adults, because you are treated in a certain way. That's the way you tend to treat people in your adulthood. These things stay in our software, and somehow you retrieve them, not intentionally, but they keep coming up. So you find that really some negative people have grown up being not hearing given affirmative words, even from parents. Sometimes things come from us parents. We keep on saying words, that end up really getting attached to our children's brains. And as they grow up, that's how they were treated, and that's what they know. So when we see such negative people, narcissists, that as we call them, we need to really extend a lot of grace, not at our own peril, as I said, not at we risk, but we need to find a way of getting these people to get help. And yes, doctor, what you said, negativity can actually be an addiction, because someone was already treated negatively, and that is what he or she knows. They start behaving that way, and to come out of it, they really need a lot of grace and a lot of help to walk the journey. And there are people who are out there sometimes when we talk of addiction, we think of drugs, we think of alcohol, there's so many things we get addicted to, even the social media, this is it what TikTok things. People, you find that instead of working there on TikTok, and it is affecting their productivity. So there is a lot that comes into someone's behavior that we need to take note of and seek help for them. And that's why I think Matilda was saying, in mental health advocacy, every one of us, in our big ways, in our small ways, we have something to do, especially to seek help for those we see have issues that are not what we call normal. Like Catherine said, no one of us wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to be bad. We all want to be good people, but we do bad things unknowingly. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mandy, for adding on to that and giving more emphasis and explanation. Anyone else? As we are now at 50 minutes past 11, I believe we are still within the time limit, since this webinar session should have ended by 11:30. But thank you all for keeping time quite well. Anyone else with any question, or anyone that would like to expound on the ideas that have been discussed today? This is your chance. You have 10 minutes. If not,
Okay.
I'll
Okay, let
I'll,
me, hello. Let me
yes,
add something also. I want to say that this conversation has been very helpful and a lot to learn, and we keep learning. Recently, we had a talk on mental health issues that affect the elderly. The elderly, we are very, we at the evening time of our years, and we may not really have energy to handle mental issues. So we may need again to put up a webinar for the elderly, much as it's not in our focus, but since we are dealing with mental health issues, we might think about it. But again, what I have liked about this are a few catchphrases I have learned really, that everyone is born empty. This one, and indeed it's correct that we are all born empty, and life throws everything, includes even garbage to us, and we pick. If our mental health is not good, we pick any garbage and we churn it into anything we want. So again, we need to emphasize issues when we have young children. We need to read also or consult with those that are experts on how to bring up children, on how to bring up grandchildren, because this is an empty person is growing up and he picks from us around us. Then the other issue again of tending our fields and weeds, we tell our adult children about it, but somebody may come up and say, you are being picky on me, you think you're perfect. So again, extending grace becomes difficult, as the presenter said. We don't have an answer, but it's all trying and trying and trying. Thank you very much, our panelists. I have really learned a lot, and our moderator, thank you so much. Free Mind Hive, by association, I'm very proud of you. Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Justine.
Just to add something, before the moderator comes in. We really appreciate Justine Bajenda. She's a board member, and we thank you for sparing time to come on board.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Justine. I thank you so much for adding on to that, and also giving us the tip on looking into covering mental health for the elderly. That is very important, especially as we age. Sometimes we tend to face concerns regarding dementia and so many other things that affect us as we age. Yes, Ms. Edigold, please go ahead.
I just wanted to know from Doctor if he's comfortable with the answer that has been posted on gender equality and gender equity. Daniel, are you comfortable with the answer, or you still wanted someone to talk through it? Maybe he is. I don't see him unmuting himself, but Matilda has just answered that. And we know that when you are talking about equality, we are talking about the equal rights, opportunities, and treatment of individuals, regardless of their gender. So it aims at fighting discrimination. But when we talk about equity, we are talking about fairness. Fairness and justice in the distribution of these resources. The other one is equal opportunity, and this one is about the fairness. So equity leads to equality. So they are two related but distinct concepts. That's what I can add. Thank you. Over to you, moderator.
Thank you, Ms. Edigold, for expanding on that too. Actually seeing the response from Matilda. And Daniel, I think I'd even asked for her to share our contact, but I think that they will be able to reach out to each other maybe probably later to avoid any privacy concerns or data breaches. I would prefer that she doesn't share it in a public group since we cannot control where that information will add. But in case Daniel would like to reach out to Matilda, I believe that can be arranged at their own discretion. Hopefully that benefits both parties. If in case not, feel free to voice out your concerns. So yes, again, thank you again for everybody that made time to attend this webinar session. To me, I found it very impactful and informative. And I believe it has been informative for the rest. And to remind you all that this session will be uploaded to our YouTube channel later today or tomorrow. And links or social links to our media channels have been shared in the chat. For those that would like to join our Telegram group, we also share those links. Yes, if you have any questions, please ask. Yes, Edigold.
I just have an addition to say that we have a website. Yeah, some of the information is still coming on board, but we have a website and other social handles where you can find our numbers. So like in case you want to have a chat with Matilda, you can call us and then we find if she's free and if she's willing. That's why we can't post their numbers in here, but we have a website where you can get our contacts and get out to us. Thank you so much, Alan, for moderating.
Okay, that is well done. I see Daniel has shared his contact. I think Matilda will pick up on that later. Again, in case you need any information, in case you want to reach out to Mind Hive, our website is mindhive.org. Straightforward, nothing, no slashes. We have our Telegram community group, and also reach out to us there or any of our social media handles. Thank you again to everybody that made the time and effort to attend this session. I hope you have picked up at least something that you can go back home with and how you're going to change about you as a person and how you're going to impact your community and your family and your friends. With that said, thanks again and have a lovely day, everybody. And thank you for attending and have a lovely afternoon.